I had only been with Preston and his team for about maybe 4 to 6 weeks. The onboarding was amazing, the lead follow-up. I was getting end-of-day reports, so I knew where I was. I had a pulse in my business, and that just allowed me to keep running the operations successfully. And March was my breakthrough month. I doubled my revenue in 1 month of what I made all in the first quarter of 2024. And that was a blessing. And then just to see what my Q2 projections can be and where I'm gonna go from here, we're at the end of April now. And I can tell you I've repeated that same volume and I've exceeded that by a gross amount.
This is the Reinforce Your Gym podcast with your host, Dustin Vogel. This show is about arming gym owners with the tools, strategies, and lessons they need to take their business to the next level. That way, they can make a greater impact in their community. Now, let's get to work and reinforce your gym.
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of the Reinforce Your Gym podcast, talking all things gym owner related. And today I got a special guest. He's a gym owner and I wanted to bring him on to share his story. And then of course his golden nuggets, because he's on a good path with his business. It's growing at a healthy rate. And I asked him selfishly to get on here because I wanted him to pass on those golden nuggets to you guys so that we can do greater good for the whole industry, right? We all know we're in a major war on obesity. And I look at gyms as forward operating bases in that war. The gym owners are the generals, the coaches are the frontline soldiers, and we are trying to turn this thing around because our obesity epidemic is out of control. So that's why I'm very abundant mindset, and I know you are too, Alan, about like, hey, let's help other gyms. It's plenty to go around. Plenty of people who need to lose weight. No one's going to be starving for clients. My special guest here is Alan Elliot with Alan Elliot Fitness. And Alan, I want to start off by just having them share a little bit about where you're located and then what is the model and style of your training that you do at your gym.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Dustin. I'm really pumped, fired up to be here. Again, my name is Alan Elliot. I'm a gym owner in Loganville, Georgia. So that's right outside of Atlanta, the greater area of Atlanta, about 1 hour away from downtown Atlanta. And my business model is small group personal training. So I run my gym by class schedule and appointment only.
Nice. Okay. Well, let's get into it, man. If you don't mind sharing your story, how did you get into fitness as a career? And then secondly, how did you end up opening your gym?
Yeah. I would say going back to my early roots as a athlete, I grew up with a kind of martial arts background, wrestling, but the transformational journey, I guess you could say, the initially gateway into fitness for me was wrestling, because I learned the disciplined weight management. My teammates, they relied on me to make weight for the competitions. You know, you can't make weight, you can't wrestle. But then I realized very quickly there's a relationship to how you make weight and how you perform. So that got me into sports nutrition. And I thought that it was very exciting to learn about these things. And I said, if I can teach this or show this to other people, that would be great. And, some of my friends at that age, they received it, not others. And from there, it kind of blossomed into the military. So going through college, I did D1 wrestling. Fitness has been a part of my lifestyle, but the journey into actually becoming a personal trainer first blossomed in the military, where I was a physical training leader for my unit. And then I became what's called a unit fitness program manager. So what I had to do was write protocols for troops who are borderline getting ready to fail out of the physical fitness test. Like if in the military, you do have to be fit to fight. So if you can't do this, you're not going to be an employee of the government. So along that journey, I got some certifications, and then I realized that there's other levels to this. I've been doing more sports performance, but I got more into bodybuilding. So the bodybuilding really detailed the nutrition, because there you are what you eat. So outside of that, partnered up with some people in the local bodybuilding industry in the Atlanta area. There was a time where I reached my 7th year in the military. There was a drawdown, and the passion for fitness was just boiling inside me. So I talked to my family. I made I prayed about it, and my future wife, my fiance, then I said, hey, I think this is my next calling. Like, I feel like I can really do this. And moving into that realm and world, my leaders in the industry then were people in the online space where they had digital programs, digital products. But they told me, they say, hey, Alan, if you want to do this the right way, you need to build up a brick and mortar infrastructure. So long story short, that was my journey into fitness. And I can tell you a little bit more about the ascension rate, but I've been in the physical training space. I've been a personal trainer, I would say, for the last 11 years, but a gym owner for the last 4. But there's an even deeper story behind that, Dust. I'm sure you want to know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that's so cool, man, because each one of those, I'm like, those all present a different challenge, like cutting weight for wrestling, being able to hit the minimum requirements for the military and pass that physical test. And then, you gotta get on stage and be in bodybuilding competitions. And then again, I know you also work with general pop who just want to feel better and move better. And so that's very cool because every single one of those, you learned a different skill and how to basically coach a different type of solution and problem that people are struggling with. And I think that definitely will show itself in the brick and mortar world. So let's kind of talk for people who are thinking of opening a gym, or maybe even they're going to open a second. This isn't something you do a lot of reps, unless you go to many, many locations. You do it once, maybe you do it twice. So I feel like it's good to hear what other people went through when it came to the leasing. And so, like, what lessons did you learn in finding the right space and just, like, again, hunting and looking, and anything you did specifically during build out that you think you did right, or a mistake you're like, if I can go back and build it out differently, I would do this differently?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I would definitely be happy to help answer that question, Dustin. And I guess if you want to say the framework for that is leaving the military, I started off as a floor trainer. So I worked as a W-2 employee in a private gym here in the Atlanta area. And from there, I realized my income was going to be very limited just due to the commission-based systems. And I was seeking out another opportunity, which some people in the industry would call independent contractor. So I did W-2 employee floor training for about 2 years. And then I ascended to what's called a independent contractor, where I was going to other gyms and I was leasing the space of the gym where I would train my clients independently of that owner or the landlord. So that's kind of how I got my reps in, so to speak. I saw how those gym owners ran their business, and then I think mentally, okay, this is what I want to do in my facility. And then, everyone knows what happened in 2020. So 2020, COVID hit, and I was at a crossroads where I was debating on, I was an independent contractor. I was leasing the space. However, during that time, only like 20% of my clients were coming in the gym. So I kind of pivoted online. And then in that time, there was a pivotal moment where I was debating on just going all the way back online. Like I said, maybe I need to shut down this, the brick and mortar area. But thankfully, with prayer, help, and support, I did get another opportunity to continue on in the brick and mortar space. So I kept building up my clientele, and we came out of that. 2021, there was a resurgence. I think people were just ready to get out of the house and look for opportunities. But what was happening to me personally was the landlord that I was with, our businesses were commingling over each other. The times weren't jiving. I mean, I couldn't be in there at the same time as she was. And we were, my hours were being restricted. So that was kind of like my birthing pain to say, okay, you need to go find your own location. So thankfully, I got to give a shout out to my wife. Her background is in real estate. So we kind of mapped out the ideal, floor space, floor plan. We did talk to a few different landlords, and I got some counsel on, negotiating the agreement and how you put together the lease, what you're going to be responsible for, what you're not going to be responsible for. I believe one of the biggest, gotcha moments, and I saw this in a gym that I was with previously, is the HVAC system. So I would say, make sure in your landlord lease agreement, do you know if you're responsible for the repair of the HVAC system or anything externally outside the building? If that's on you, then you should have reserves for it. That's been my journey. And then you could say I ran my gym the first 3 years like a super personal trainer. I didn't run it like a gym owner. Honestly, my path to you, Dustin, was in 2024 when my gym system, I didn't have any systems as a gym owner. I had super personal training systems, but I didn't have systems of a gym owner, like structure, lead acquisition, follow-up, marketing. social media content strategy, development, nurture. All those things were concepts to me. Like I knew about them, but I didn't know anyone that was teaching them. So I would say that was my stagnant point in the first 3 years of my journey as a gym owner. But then two, what happened was I realized the overhead was higher. So there was like this expense creep with the management of clientele, with the management of services, and there was no system to scale from that infrastructure. And then two, I didn't even know these terms. Like I didn't know what lead retention was. I didn't know what ascension was. I didn't know about a front end offer. My best front end offer, I would call it the one trick pony, was I did a 2 week, I call it the Fat Furnace program, 2 week $97 trial. So even then, that was my lead acquisition system, but I didn't have any other organic marketing strategies outside of just, pray and hope good things will happen. Learning these strategies, I can show you like where I developed from that. Only thing I did consistently was what I knew to be a personal trainer, but there's a whole nother level of gym ownership, responsibility. I know I met you through a podcast with Vince Gabriel, and he has a method of what he calls the 4 stages of gym ownership. So literally, if you want to rank me, I was stuck at stage 1 for over 10 years. And this is my 11th year in the business. And I feel like I'm rapidly going to ascend past stage 2 into stage 3 of gym ownership, just with the new knowledge that I've had applied and, working with you and your staff.
That's awesome, man. And I'm glad you shared that nugget about the HVAC, because I've had that too, where I assumed everyone did it the same, because my first 2 or 3 leases, they would cover everything outside the building. I had to take care of everything inside. So I'm like, oh, this must be how leases are. Till I got to my 4th, and they're like, you have to take care of everything with HVAC. I was like, what? And so, we build patterns based on our previous experiences. So that was my first wake up call. Like, you just lucked out with the first 3 landlords. They were nice. And some of them are going to try to like take the wool over your eyes. So I'm glad you're making people become aware. Because again, if you only did 1 lease and they took care of HVAC, you might not know that that's coming to look for on your next one if you decide to do more. So, but yeah, man, let's get into some mistakes made, because I definitely sounds like we already uncovered one. I'd like to share a few, because I feel like that's where real in pain is where the learning is done. And if we can like help people dodge the mines on the minefield and say, don't repeat what I did if you're, good enough to listen to my words. So let's dive into this idea that you said of being a super personal trainer. Is that a personal trainer who just owns their own building and they're not leasing anymore? And what is that exactly? And what was the mistake and the lesson learned?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like literally, and we will copy and paste this. We can probably make something fun out of it. But that is exactly what I was. I was just a super personal trainer. I was trying to run the gym the same way I operate as an independent contractor. I just thought, I just have to increase my revenue to match what the responsibilities are. But there's so many more intricacies, and you'd be surprised how many holes pop up in your tank that you wouldn't know as a gym owner, versus just being a contractor floor trainer or a personal trainer that leases their space. So that was huge for me to understand the mindset shift of moving from a personal trainer to a gym owner. And I was a one-man army, and I thought that I thought I was doing good, and I was compared to my peers. As a personal trainer, I was elite, but as a gym owner, I was a baby that was unsupervised. Any move and you're vulnerable, and that proved itself. I'll just be very candid with you. My first 3 years in the gym space, if you want to say there was holes in the tank, I was losing $10,000 a year, and I didn't even know it. Like, it was just sinking down because I didn't have any systems of a proven front end offer. I didn't have a system to ascend them, and I didn't have an assistant to retain them. So I kind of went around the track for almost 3 years, but each time I went around the track, the expenses were creeping up, life was happening, and I was descending. It took another gym owner to check me and say, hey man, what are your finances? What is your annual revenue? How many people do you have? This is stuff I did not even know. So what I would tell a gym owner or someone who's aspiring to be a gym owner is to challenge everything, track everything. Good data equals good decisions. If you have bad data, you'll make bad decisions. If you have no data, you won't make any decisions. And that's where fear creeps in, the fear of paralysis, the analysis of I know I can do better, but I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. I need a framework. And it took me, I'm not saying I wasn't humble. It's just I didn't have access to the tools. So I was seeking access to the tools, and I met another gym owner here in the Atlanta area, and he had a group he calls the Atlanta Gym Owners. So we meet monthly and we discuss our wins, our pain points, what systems we're using, the structure. So I started showing up to that group in 2024 of January. I missed the first meeting because of my son's birthday, but I started coming to all those. And long story short, I didn't put together the systems that you teach that your gym owners use to be successful until right around Black Friday going into December of last year. So I was learning these things, but I didn't have the tools yet. But I said all that to say, you take my opening start, 21, 22 down 10,000, 23 down 10,000. I meet the gym owners group. I actually reframe my mindset as I'm not a super personal trainer. I'm a gym owner. I got to track this stuff. This is the lifeblood of my business. These numbers do matter. And it wasn't a strength of mine. I had to make it a strength. And then until I was able to, delegate it to someone else to say, hey, can you track these numbers? Because they're important to me. And they're so important, I'm willing to pay someone to do it. I saw how highly I recognize they are. And in 24, by the end of 24, I was able to go all the way back up to my revenue from the year I opened the gym. So if you want to say it was a bell curve, it literally was a bell curve. And in that time of that bell curve, that's when I met and learned of you and your team, Gym Reinforcements, and that podcast with Vince Gabriel. But it was just an idea, you say it was a figment of my imagination.
No, I mean, there's three, I think, things I heard there was super personal trainer is really one man army, one man show. You get sick, the gym's closed that day. You literally had no staff, and that's the risk. And we as guys and people in fitness, we just want to out muscle our way through growth. But at some point, it breaks you, and you realize, man, I can't do it all. I gotta learn how to lead a team and hire a team. Second was data. I love that. You said good data will make me good decisions, bad data will bring me bad decisions. And I think no data, honestly, you just operate off of emotions then, what you feel like. You I hear gym owners say feel statements. I feel like this offer's not working. I feel like no one wants my deal. And then it's like, well, you don't know because you're just going off of feeling. And then the third is, community mentorship. I will say I like to have three different directions of mentorship. I want to go down, and that's what we're doing a little bit here on the podcast. People who might be behind me, and I want to lift them up, and I want to be their mentor. Then I want peers, people who are at the same level somewhat of me, maybe in a certain price range that we're all making the same revenue and we're sharing ideas. And I want someone above me, someone that's gone further than I have, and they're pulling me up. And when you don't have any of those, let alone all three, you really do feel like lost, and it's easy to become like you're living on an island of business owners. And when you have all three, you actually feel very fulfilled, very supported. And that applies to anything. I even told my fitness clients, like, hey, there's peers here in the session. Your coach is your mentor leading you ahead. And you know what? You can go back home and you can lead your kids and your spouse. And I said, when you got all three of those, that's when you're really fully supported. So I love that you pointed out those as three learning lessons for others to not repeat. Don't skip on the data. Don't try to be a one-man show. Don't try to figure it out. That's the slow, painful way. Get around that mentorship. I want to definitely switch gears into golden nuggets, where I call them, are special things that you did that you saw an uptick in the business. When I did this change, when I did that change, I'll be greedy. I'm going to ask for three. And so jog your mind and think about, I know recently you had one of your best months, record-breaking months. So again, I'll let you kind of take it from there. What's the first thing you want to start with? What's a golden nugget we could share with a gym owner?
Yeah, I would say as a gym owner, if you're not currently doing this, you should do it as soon as possible. And that's to learn how to scale from one-to-one to one-to-many. And again, my journey as a super personal trainer I was the one man army, but I realized like people would just keep showing up. So it's like I can't start any earlier, I can't go any later. So what I realized is I gotta compress people. So I talked to my existing one-on-one clients and I said, hey, I will compress or reorganize your agreement if you allow someone to train with you. So those really popular times started collapsing, and then I was building out a system organically, but I still didn't have a structure. So I would say learn to scale as fast as possible. Secondly, I would say this is new to me, but I would say switch to either weekly or biweekly billing because that ensures the lifeblood of your business. What I did originally was I had people on program agreements and I was letting them choose, hey, do you want to pay on the first of the month or the 15th? So with that system, as attrition happened, I had no one really paying on the first. Everyone was paying on the 15th. So I was like trying to really manage the money. There was a cash flow problem. I had a big cash flow problem. So if you want to fix that immediately, lifeblood of your business, switch to weekly, bi-weekly billing. And then I saved the
Let's back up. I want to dive into these a little bit more. The group training, I think everyone catches on that, man. When I'm doing one-to-one, I just got a chain here to the gym. I can't ever scale myself out, and I'm gonna max out the amount of sessions. And it's hard to scale that because also when you get a trainer as your employee and you load them up, well, when they leave, they take all the clients because the relationship is there. In group, people get a little bit more comfortable with trainers might come and go, but the program stays the same. And as long as I'm here with my group of people, I'm good. And so you tend to find that. And then obviously the margins are much better when you're training one to many. But that's what's definitely becoming the most popular model right now. It's definitely small group training. You could charge the most. You don't have to chase volume. You can have the least amount of clients and you can have a very successful business. So I guess, are there any inside of that, a learning lesson within the learning lesson, scheduling, or what do you find is a sweet spot? How many clients do you have in your sessions? And then what do you charge, just so other owners can kind of hear your rates? Gym owners, I don't want you to have the reputation in town as the gym that doesn't call people back, all right? We know it's critical when someone's finally made a decision to get healthy and fit that we get to them as quickly as possible. This can be solved by plugging in our remote sales reps, okay? It's not AI, it's not a bot, it's a real human that's working on your leads, the new ones that come in from your ads and the old leads in your database. And they're there to qualify the leads, to ask them discovery questions and to make sure they're a good fit. And then their job is to move them forward in your sales process so that you get more members month over month. All right, if you want to learn about our remote sales reps, go ahead and go to gymreinforcements.com, book a call, and we'll tell you more about it. See you then.
Oh yeah, great question. All great questions. So again, for me, I do come from the online space. So a lot of the systems I had, I try to see if I can put them into the physical floor training space. And I use a card system where I have stations that have circuits. So I was teaching and training on time. And that made sense to me to say, okay, everyone can start together, end together, and we can move in a unit. So I built out, you want to say workout of the day, I built out stations where people can plug in on circuits, and I run those circuits on time. And from there, I started realizing that I couldn't just wait and guess how many people were going to come. So I was like, oh, you need to start registering. So like a registration system for attendance and then the demand. So then I could also just track and see what class times are the most popular, what classes need to merge, what classes need to go away. That's kind of how that organically happened for me. And now I'm looking to find a more stable system. I'm using Calendly right now, but I'm looking to use a gym software. I'd recommend, I know you speak highly of FitPro Tracker, MindBody, but something that will generate repeat data, because then you can have people falling through the cracks, meaning that was a huge mistake. You want to say mistaken nugget is to be able to even track the attendance of the sessions. Because once your volume of people gets to a certain level, someone misses the first session, then they miss a week, and then you don't catch it to the second week. And it may be hard to even get that person back. So that was a huge learning lesson of going from one-to-one to one-to-many to stay engaged with their clients, create a weekly rhythm of engagement. And what worked for me was the launch point of, hey, it's Sunday, you got to register for your classes. And if I don't see you register, I'm going to be reaching out to say, how you doing, what's going on?
Okay. All right. And then what are your rates, Alan? How do you?
Oh yes. Yeah, so right now, this is, and again, if you want to say the dovetail, what I'm currently doing, what's helped me reach my best months is I have a client acquisition system. So I run a Facebook ads campaign targeting ladies over 35 who haven't exercised in a while who are looking to complete a transformation challenge. So I call that the 6-week challenge. Based on that lead generation source, my front end offer to do the challenge is $597. If they're not able to make that payment up front, I would install a payment, term agreement with them with a card on file. And then that would look to send them into my long-term program, which would be bi-weekly. If they're training 2 times a week, that would be 180 every 2 weeks. And if they're going to train 3 times a week, it's going to be 240. So that's 480 every 4 weeks or 360 every 4 weeks. But that's my current system. And the ascension rate has been amazing. The appointment setting, if you want me to talk about that, what you guys do. So,
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, dude, let's just do some number crunching. You get 100 clients at 360 a month. You're at a $36,000 business, a very small footprint, not a lot of overhead, and a lean team. That's the way to do it in today's world. Like $500,000 a year gym when you add in, people on the higher tier program and stuff. And you're right around 40,000, no problem, even up to 50. So that's awesome, man. And again, I think a lot of people built their model for volume where they need 300 people to hit what you hit with 100 members. And you're going to basically have higher retention too because you have close relationships with 100 people. It's hard to remember 300 people's names and 300 people's goals and all these things. So it's like, hey guys, that's another lesson I would say to point out here is like a lot of the problems that we got to deal with day to day just start at one big decision, which is the model we built on day one. And so if you're not happy with your model, you do have the right to change it. You can change your model anytime. I went through that. It was painful. It sucked. But man, it was almost like someone flipped a switch. We had a more profitable business the first month that we started with the new small group training model and got out of the large group. And I had a leaner team and it was like my best team members and I was able to pay them more and my clients stayed longer. So there's a lot of wins to doing the small group training. And that's why I like talking to people like you that come from a personal training background, because for you, it feels like a punch in the gut to lose a client because it's so rare. You keep clients for years. Personal trainers aren't even talking months, we're talking years.
mm-hmm.
When you talk to someone that's got like a group class mindset, they're just turning and burning people every 6 months and they know that kind of is like the game. But I'm like, the problem is your mindset that you're allowing that to happen and that you're okay. A trainer would never be okay with that. They would be losing their mind, right? So again, just things to point out. I know we like to talk about leads and marketing and ads and sweet challenges or whatever, but like I also like to just double down on retention. And like you can't build a business on a house of cards without having really, really dialed retention in. Alan, what other golden nuggets you want to share? I know you're on a roll here, man. Keep them coming.
Yeah. I guess, my biggest journey or documentation is just to, be candid and share my story of how I got here. Even to have this opportunity to be on your platform. If you would have told me last year, oh, Alan, you're going to listen to a podcast and then you're going to be on the podcast. I'm like, okay. But how that all came to be from a standpoint is being willing to be coachable and unlearn bad habits and then just take massive action. And what got me the most excited was these are all the things that I wanted to do. I just didn't know how to do them and I didn't have the tools. Once I got the tools, it was like a kid in a candy store. I was like, okay, let's go to work. Let's do this. And my journey into this foray under the new mentorship and mindset as a gym owner was to think in systems, think in scaling. So in assembling that team, Destin and his team have been integrated into my business at a high level where I launched my initial lead client acquisition system and I was making all the phone calls, but I was still covered up in one-on-one training sessions and I had group. And I realized very quickly that I had a powerful opportunity, but I would be burning money or leads would be falling through my fingertips if I could not interact with them at a speed to lead was what we'll call it, or at a personal volume level consistently day in, day out. So my first attempt to do lead nurture or manage the leads because the Facebook funnel was on. I had no intentions of turning it off. Was to find a someone that would lead nurture. So I was using a chat bot that would engage with the lead to help them get to the appointment. And that was a pain for me because I realized quickly that they still needed that personal touch. Like they could talk to the text message. They didn't know if it was me. They didn't know if it was the chat bot, but the show up rate just wasn't there consistently. And I was recognizing that it was losing that. I'm gonna use this phrase like high tech, high touch. Like I was high tech, but I was out of touch with who the individual was. So that made me think, okay, if you really want to make it in this new mindset as a gym owner, you're going to need a team that's going to help you with the lead nurture, with the client acquisition. And that's when I came back to Justin and said, hey, I'm interested in this. And I spoke with Jason. He onboarded me through the process. I already believed in it. I just knew it was a pain point. There was the investment level was there, and I was willing to make the investment because in my mind, I was determined to say, I believe in myself and my skills. And if I can get the sale back, that is reinvesting in myself. So it just became a self-liquidating offer or funnel. And, it just blossomed and volumed into it. So, if you're saying numbers wise, I was kind of chugging along, 12,000, 12,000, 12,000. And I had only been with Justin and his team for about maybe 4 to 6 weeks. The onboarding was amazing. The lead follow-up, I was getting end-of-day reports. So I knew where I was. I had a pulse in my business. And that just allowed me to keep running the operations successfully. And, March was my breakthrough month. I doubled my revenue in 1 month of what I made all in the first quarter one of 2024. And that was a blessing. And then just to see what my Q2 projections can be and where I'm going to go from here. We're at the end of April now. Dustin, I can tell you I've repeated that same volume and I've exceeded that by, a gross amount. I do have to give a huge testament to Gym Reinforcements. And then also shout out to Kim, who is my remote sales agent. She's amazing. Leica, Shannon, and then also TL Kayla. She's a team lead. So all these people have been instrumental in the success that actually helped me to even become on this podcast today. So these are tools and systems that you need as a gym owner and you're struggling. Don't be the one-man army, commit and you'll see the return on investment rapidly.
Love it. Love your mindset, man. I mean, I'm the same way. I never look at something I invested in as a loss or a failure because I learned something from it. And there's services I hired and I was completely wowed and I was happy. And then there's coaching programs that I joined and I was kind of like, all right, wasn't a whole lot, but I left with one thing at least. And that came from my mindset. And I see you're the same way. You're like, I trust you guys, but I also trust myself more. And that's going to get us to the success. And a lot of owners want to just hire somebody else and then just kind of check out. And it's your business, man. You got to be engaged. And we got to work on this together as a team. It's not a outsourcing and then you get to duck out, Your mindset is definitely the one of owners that we love working with, man. What would you say to a gym owner who's like on the fence? Because you like you said, it's an investment, but that's the right way to look at it. It's not a cost. It's not a loss. It's not like I'm burning cash. These phrases that gym owners can say. It's an investment, but it's also meant to make you pay attention to it. Because when we pay attention. And so like, what about those people who are on the fence? They're afraid of getting on board with GR. I guess what kind of advice would you give to them?
Yeah, my advice would be to say, you can pay now or you can play later, or you can play later and pay now. However that phrase goes, the way I visioned it was, I see the power of this client acquisition system. I just needed someone to engage with the leads and to help ensure that they would get to the door, because once they got to the door, that's where my opportunity as a personal trainer to connect with the person was manifested. Meaning if it wasn't for them, the system would have been clogged and they would have been lost in the shuffle. So that would be my biggest, I guess, tip to say, if you are already paying for the ads to get the leads, you need to ensure that the leads are going to make it to your door. If there's holes in that funnel before they get there, and you don't know that they even exist, or you didn't know that this strategy existed, to have someone that will call the leads off your lists, work with you, give you key, topics, examples of the needs of this person as they come in, what you need to know about them. And then it's almost like working with Kim. I've been working with you guys almost 60 days. We almost complete each other's sentences. Like, Kim's like, hey, this person's coming in, or here's the end of day report, or what do you need from me? Like, the service has been way more than what I expected. As a sales agent, as a business owner, I would just say it's more value than what you could ever offer. And I believe Justin's offer is fair too. He's offering a 60-day, program agreement, just to make sure it's a win-win for you. But like, I've already seen the return on investment massively. And whatever you think you could do, I would just say challenge everything. Like, in this realm, in this arena where we are in the gym owner space, the ability to scale has been far superior than any other system I've ever been a part of. And that's what has me the most excited. It's kept me laser focused. And even his accountability groups, like I'm making mistakes along the way, and Dustin is still supporting me in my growth. So it's not a perfection or perfectionist standard. It's just, how can I constantly improve? And I'll just tell you this, Dustin, we were looking in the accountability accelerator, and I had a hole in my funnel I didn't even know. Like, I had people signing up, but I was losing track of where they were in the 6-week pipeline. And I worked with my sales agent, Kim. I said, Kim, how many people signed up for my 6-week challenge in the last 2 months? And we have 40 people sign up, but I only had 2 people come out as a paid new member. So like, that's a huge problem. But there's people still with me because I have other systems that record who's on my list. So what we did is said, okay, who's actually showing up to training? I have a list of 70 people showing up to training. Out of those 70, 30 are existing people. So that means I have 40 people that are still showing up that need to come out the other side. So that's what we're working on right now in the accountability group with Dustin. So there's just so many other layers to his services he offers. And I only knew about the first layer, but it's like literally like a golden nugget. Like, golden nuggets keep popping up, and whatever speaks to you, whatever resonates, I think that should attract you to gravitate to whatever systems he's teaching. And then just jump in with accountability, meet some other people in the community, and you'd be surprised how far you can come.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And we got more things in the kitchen coming out soon. But I would say the lesson there is, and I went through that too, is selling never stops. Selling doesn't stop when I got the money and they brought the program. Now I got to sell them to come in. They think, oh, I spent the money. Now my ab should arrive like an Amazon box now, like it's arriving any day now. I was like, no, you got to show up and work for it. And then they become a membership, and now you got to sell them to stay and not leave.
Exactly.
So the selling literally never stops, and then I want to sell them to bring their spouse in, and I want to sell them to buy my supplements or whatever. And so it's like the good mindset to have, because a lot of owners are uncomfortable with that word, but they don't understand selling is just another word for persuasion. And if you can persuade somebody to do something that's good for them, you're using your powers for good. But we see people who, end up getting like under scrutiny by the FTC and all these different companies because they're selling cryptocurrencies and scam courses, and they're ripping people off. And I remember last year there was an online coach actually out here in Dallas that was selling custom fitness programs, but she sent everyone the same template program, and it wasn't really custom. And so, they got in trouble. So it's just like, these are people using persuasion for wrong, but I don't feel like any gym owners are using it that way. They're using it for good, But thank you, Alan. I appreciate it. Again, I know you've broke company records, and I only see that that's going to continue to be rebroken throughout the rest of this year. I guess, what are your goals for the future? Just so we can kind of get a peek into that. We look back at you starting the gym, the struggles of growing it. Now we're on a good pace. But what do you got in mind for the rest of this year and beyond?
Yeah, visually, Dustin, there was some, very early on goals that I didn't even realize that were possible. And you want to say, my mantra as a gym owner and a trainer is to crush complacency. But I think without some of these systems, I myself became complacent. just because the ability to expand my container of belief was limited. Like, oh, this is the best I'll ever have. This is the best I'll ever be. This is my ceiling. And, I'll just share something personal to you. Like when I made my best record month the first time, it was in August of 2021, and I made 16,000. That was like my best month ever. I was happy, but I was sad at the same time because of the stress that it put on me. All the people that I had to train to get there, I was like, I don't even know how I can do this again. Like, I was super tapped out. And mentally, I was like, okay, well, if this is what you say you are, and this is what you signed up for, just grind it out, just grind it out, And I'm not saying I didn't have the passion, but the belief of dreams and goals that I set for my family and that I wanted to do when I left the military, that almost felt like it was on the back burner. And I was like, okay, now you have a gym, you have this responsibility, just continue. But, now that I've been in these systems as a gym owner, I've seen my business transform, not overnight, but if you say the seeds were planted in a 90-day window, and then working with your company from 6 weeks, 7 weeks, now we're at 60 days, full 2 months. And I repeated, $22,000, $25,000 months. In my head, I have the vision of being a stage 3 gym owner, which is someone who's generating between $40,000 to $80,000. And I really believe, and I know with your help, I'll be there 50,000 minimum, by at least Q3, Q4. Like, the systems are there, the structure's there. I just have to keep, showing up and doing the work. So that's what's expanding my container. As a child too, there was this book that I remember reading called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that was talking about moving from cash flow quadrants, like you're an employee, you're self-employed, you're a business owner, you're an investor. So I've been hanging out with these gym owners, and they've really expanded my belief for what I thought. I didn't know how I was going to get to, as a 10, 11-year-old reading this book. I was like, oh, that's cool. How am I going to get from E to I? Like, how do I get from employee to investor? And the model, and again, I'm sharing this, I'm just putting it out there for anyone who's listening to me. The model that resonated with me that I didn't even know was possible is to say, okay, I started in the military, I was an employee. I understand structure, I understand systems. Becoming self-employed, becoming a W-2 personal trainer, that's self-employed. However, that's a personal trainer. Once you become a gym owner, you are a business owner because you have the keys to a Ferrari, to a Lamborghini. You just have to know how to manipulate the systems and assemble your team. And like Dustin said, have the people below you, have your peers that are rooting for you, and they have somebody that's above you that keeps you in check, to keep you accountable. So my vision, the way I see this now, is how I can get from the employee to the self-employed to the business owner is just to scale my existing systems in my gym and then do it again in a second gym. And then from there, the sky's the limit to say, do I want to keep doing this, or do I want to target investors or become an investor myself? That is the clearest pathway. I'm 39 now, so I've known about these concepts of how do you get from employee, self-employed, business owner, investor. They were all theory, but now they're a reality. It's just putting in the time and the work and having the accountability of someone who knows how to do it, that's willing to teach you. That's the coolest thing about even being on this podcast and being in your system, is like, I can talk to someone who's in the future and they're coming back to me to say, hey man, this is what I recommend you do. And it resonates.
Yeah, I love that, man. And so that it's an exciting time. I'm excited for you. Like, this is the best part of being a gym owner, is like when you're on this upward trajectory and you're helping more people, you're making more money, you can take better care of your team. Like, everybody just wins, like, when all this stuff happens. So you're definitely like on a great trajectory. And then, and then you get to go into the next phase, which is definitely investor. Do I want to buy out my competition if they're going to be closing, buy some other gyms and I want to stay in my lane? Do I want to buy other types of businesses that are maybe service-based? Do I want to invest in real estate, stocks? Like, there's just so many cool ways to go. And so again, for owners that aren't there yet, that's your thing to look forward to. That's the light at the end of that tunnel, right? So Alan, we're going to wrap up here, man. I love that you, again, are connecting with gym owners, but if there's any other gym owners that want to connect with you online, what's the best platform, and how could they get a hold of you just to kind of tap into your knowledge?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to speak with anyone that has questions about my journey programs. I'm most active, I would say, on Facebook and Instagram. So my Instagram handle is Alan Elliot. My last name is spelled 2 L's, 2 T's, and fit. So at Alan Elliot Fit. My website is my first name, last name, AlanElliott.com. On Facebook, personally, that's my name. My business page is just Alan Elliott Fitness Personality. But I think that'll be the fastest way to connect with me. I do have presence on all the other channels, but if you wanted to say immediately reaching out, I'd be happy to speak with anybody who's listening to this podcast and just, give them encouragement and belief that, hey, your past doesn't equal your future. And whatever you thought you could do, it is possible just with the right help and guidance.
Yes. All right. Well, guys, you heard it. If you want to reach out to Alan on Facebook or Instagram, do that. We'd love for you to screenshot this podcast and tag us on social media as well. Let us know what you thought about it or what your biggest takeaway was. And until next time, we'll see you guys later. Hey, gym owners, let's face it, you probably don't love digital marketing. You probably don't want to go into Facebook and load the ad up and think of ad copy and creatives and optimize it daily. Well, hand that over to me and my team because we're geeks about marketing and we want to flood your gym with new members so you can change their life. Let us do what we do best. All right, go to gymreinforcements.com, book a call. Don't bring the credit card. It's not a hard pitch. It's just a conversation to see if we're a good fit. Talk soon.